Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Drew Wilder joins us live now from the neighborhood with the latest on this horrific tragedy. Drew?
Sean, I want to show everybody just how massive this crash scene was. It is so chilling. So as you mentioned, the SUV comes over this hill on Shreve Road at about 5 o'clock this morning. Nobody in the SUV is wearing seatbelts. You can see the tire marks on the road where they start to lose control. The SUV leaves the road. It takes multiple chunks out of this tree, and then it either goes into a tailspin, or some neighbors said they think it actually might have started to roll over a couple times. It's throwing debris all over people's yards. It crosses over Pioneer Lane, and eventually that SUV comes to rest in the yard across the street here. And when it's all said and done, there are 6 teenage passengers who have been thrown out of the vehicle, and they are lying all over this neighborhood. Big might be putting it lightly, Erica. I have never seen anything like this. I grew up in the Midwest. I've covered tornadoes. This wasn't a tornado. This was in a neighborhood in Arlington. Now, I'm not the tallest guy in the world. Nobody's ever confused me for an NBA player, but look how massive this uprooted tree is. You can see it was starting to rot right there in the center, but the winds that came through here with such force have devastated this neighborhood. And then look what this tree did to the house and the house right next door. It took out the roof of the neighboring house, smashed through that room, and even started to break through the floor, coming down into the first level. I mean, look at the brick, the part that didn't break away. It looks like giant cat claws scratched away at that. And then when I heard the next part of this story, they tell me, neighbors, friends of this family, say that the woman that sleeps in that bedroom is pregnant right now. Just by chance, right before the storm hit, she had went across the street to visit with some neighbors and help them out with something. And then the storm hit, then this massive tree took out the room where she might have been sleeping at that time. Such an incredibly powerful story, so much damage throughout Northern Virginia, and yet still some families weren't quite so lucky.
There is so much to unpack, and to help add some context now, News 4's Drew Wilder joins us to explain how this became a war and the potential global impact. Drew?
Yeah, Jim, Israel is describing the attack by Hamas over the weekend as its 9/11. This conflict is generations in the making, so we want to give you a brief overview. But one major flashpoint is control of this 25-mile stretch of land wedged between Israel and Egypt. When you talk about square miles, it's roughly the size of Washington, D.C. All of this land fiercely divided over religious and ideological differences. Israel controlled this land, the Gaza Strip, from 1967 to 2005, enabling the construction of Jewish settlements. But Palestinians rejected that, calling it an occupation of the land. So under international pressure, Israel withdrew some 9,000 Israeli settlers and military forces from Gaza in 2005 and then turned the land over to Palestinian Authority. But a year later, Hamas, which is a militant Palestinian nationalist group, came into power in the Gaza Strip after winning an election there, and it's held on to power since, though there hasn't been a single election since. Hamas does not recognize Israel's right to exist as a state and has gone as far to suggest driving out all of the Jews in that region. And while it is the governing body of Gaza, the United States and other countries have deemed Hamas as a terrorist organization. Now we want to take you to 2007. In response to Hamas, Israel and Egypt implemented a land, air, and sea blockade on Gaza, preventing Palestinian people from leaving and also blocking most goods from entering. More than 2 million people live in Gaza. It is considered one of the most densely populated areas in the world. But conditions there are pretty horrible. According to the World Bank, Israel's 16-year blockade has driven Gaza's economy to near collapse. The Human Rights Watch likened conditions in Gaza to an open-air prison. Hamas has launched terror attacks on Israel to protest that blockade, firing rockets, sending suicide bombers into public places, but nothing, Jim and Un, like the size and the scope of the attack that we saw on Saturday.
It's just unbelievable, these pictures still coming in. Let's talk about the significance, Drew, of where the attacks are happening. We saw that incredible video of people running for cover during that music festival as rockets flew overhead. And we've since learned that Hamas massacred more than 250 people at that festival. Where is this particular area in relation to the Gaza Strip?
Yeah, that video is just chilling. So the attacks over the weekend were focused on Israeli villages just beyond Gaza's border in towns like Sderot and then also in Reem. And that's actually where the festival was happening, all along the border of the Gaza Strip there. Hamas fighters actually bulldozing through a barrier, a large fence that's there on the ground to separate the two regions. They bulldozed through that fence and then they proceeded on the ground, fired rockets through the air at Israeli cities, killing civilians and also taking hostages. Well, Leon, still a very tense situation here in Fairfax County. I'll show you what's going on just across the street. Well, first here in the street, you can see this robot, one of two robots that's been moving up and down the street, appearing to approach the vehicle. At one point, we saw a different robot actually hand something to the woman inside. We don't know what that was. Police won't confirm that. But what we can see from my vantage point is that dark green armored police vehicle. There's a SWAT team member on the top and a sort of turret, and other SWAT team members here kind of shielding themselves from a woman who was in a black SUV with a handgun on the other side of that armored vehicle. We'll have a little bit more on that in just a second, but I want to show you how massive this police presence is. This is Route 1, Richmond Highway, that runs from Alexandria down south through the state, and this is a massive thoroughfare. Richmond Highway shut down in both directions for about a mile, and it's been shut down for several hours this afternoon. The Virginia Department of Transportation has been working with the county to try to redirect traffic. So now, let's get to what's happening over in that vehicle with the woman who has been inside with a handgun all day. This is what Chopper 4 was able to show us from the sky. Fairfax County Police say they have been negotiating with the woman inside for hours. They tell us this is a mental health crisis. Now, when we first got here earlier this afternoon, I spoke with a woman who says her friend was trying to get to work right here in this area when all of this started at about noon today.
He was trying to get to the Honda building where he worked at, and they told him not to come there because this was barricade. But he explained to me that somebody had barricaded themselves in that car with a gun. Said it was a lady.
Now, Fairfax County Police can't release many details right now because they're trying to get this woman safely out of the SUV. But News 4 is working to confirm if this is in any way related to two missing persons cases from Maryland. Right now, you're looking at a picture of 25-year-old Lauren Kingsbury. Police in Laurel, Maryland reported Lauren missing yesterday, saying she was last seen on Friday. Though tonight we can confirm that Kingsbury was found safe and she is with Fairfax County Police. And another Maryland woman, 29-year-old Brittany Copeland, was reported missing around the same time as Lauren Kingsbury. But she was reported missing by the Charles County Sheriff's Office. Now, Fairfax County Police telling me today that all of this started when they got a call from the Charles County Sheriff's Office asking them to look for somebody in this area. However, Fairfax County Police will not confirm if the woman inside the vehicle with a handgun right now is the same person that the Charles County Sheriff's Office was asking for help for. So here we are going on the 6th hour of these negotiations in this barricade situation. All of these businesses have been on a sort of soft lockdown throughout the day. We're told that Fairfax County Police are going to send a public relations officer out here. So we hope to have a few more details to report to you sometime here within the next hour. We'll bring you all of the updates as they're happening here on air and, of course, on NBCWashington.com. You guys.
All right, Drew Wilder.
Yeah, Leon, we're out here at Old Ox Brewery in Ashburn, and I don't know how we feeling, guys. Guys, I can tell you that this place went absolutely bonkers when the news broke about 30 minutes ago. A handful of people are still hanging out, and they're having a great time out here. They're actually selling Buy Dan IPAs to people, and people are just losing their minds. They are so excited for this next era of Washington football. There you go. You got the Buy Dan at Old Ox Brewery. And I want to come over here. Francis, come join me out here for a second if you could. I want to talk with Francis. A long-time Washington football fan. You've got the burgundy and sold t-shirt.
Absolutely. Chased down my postal truck this morning to get it. I knew it was on its way. Wasn't going to be there in time. Found truck in my neighborhood, and he gave me my T-shirt.
Hey, if you can catch the postal truck, we might be looking for a running back.
Or a receiver.
When he found out what I was coming for, he was like, yeah, go for it. So all good. All
You've been a fan of this team for so long. What does it feel like now that this day's finally here?
relief and excitement over the future, to get back to the future, bring back the culture we've had, winning on the field, not just off the field, and making it a community of winners again, and feeling good about ourselves, about our team, everything. So looking forward to that.
I think I know where you're going to go with this, but where would you like to see a stadium?
Actually, I'd like to see it back in the D.C. area, back where, yeah, of course, you know, in a good setting that brings forth everything that is good about this area.
Awesome.
Really
Francis, thank you so much. Congratulations to you. I love that shirt. All right, you guys, we're going to send it back to you in the studio. The party here out at Old Docks Brewery in Ashburn is happening. I mentioned there's a beer, though, that I wanted to show you guys. It's right over here. Hey, do you have the By Dan IPA? Can we see we're on live TV right now. This is what they're selling out at Old Docks Brewery. It's the By Dan IPA. They are really getting into it out in Ashburn. Of course, the practice facility just down the road here. So we got a lot of diehards here. We're going to keep the party going. We'll have more coming up throughout the news this evening, you guys.
They might be